Tyler Public Library. And thank you all for braving the elements and making it out here today. So today I will be talking about artificial intelligence and data. And given that wonderful introduction, I'm kind of skipping through this part, a little bit about myself. Just a couple of highlights here. I am professor of computer science, also director of the data analytics lab over at UT Tyler. My three research areas are textual financial prediction, and in essence, in plain English, what that means is being able to have a computer read a news article and make predictions on where that stock price is going to go and make an instantaneous trade before a human analyst has a chance to even read that. Sports analytics, so looking at patterns, trends, and tendencies within sports and trying to find competitive advantage with that. And also our latest area is healthcare informatics. So one of the areas that we're looking at is looking at adverse drug events with multiple prescriptions. So what prescription drugs should never be used in combination. So we're looking at that. So I keep myself busy with that regard. And I have had my research featured in a couple of media outlets, so I'm kind of happy about that. So today, the outline of today's talk might be a little bit different from what you've had in the past. We're going to focus on some of the background of artificial intelligence, how it has evolved over the years, give you a little bit of the history of it, a little bit of the flavor of all the different areas of artificial intelligence, get into the data of why this is so important and why we need to start to protect this. And then we will get into the foreign policy aspects. So I'll present several stories and situations, and we can start a discussion based upon that. All right. Let's go ahead and start off. I always love to start my classes off with kind of taking the magic out of it. Public perception of how AI has progressed over the years. Yeah, classical AI is nothing but the if-then statements, but a lot of people have started to conflate that in recent years. We're starting to see the absolute explosion of IoT devices. And that means we're taking computers out of their traditional desktop and laptop environments, and we're starting to see computers in a whole wide variety of areas that we never thought were possible even 10 years ago. So for example, I see we got an IoT device in the back of the room here that controls the screen up here. So it's just a computing device that takes input, does some sort of magic, and output comes out of it. We've got tons of IoT devices around us. Smartphones, good example, smart watches. My wife, she just got a 2020 Forester, and that thing is IoT connected, so I can see exactly where it is in the world. I can start that thing remotely. I can open up the door locks. So all kinds of really fascinating things. Then we've got cameras that we have in our houses, and we can see what's going on in our houses, and so forth. So it's basically started to explode, and then if we start to add in the machine learning aspect, where we're starting to learn from those patterns, trends, and tendencies, that starts to make these devices smart. And that's where it starts to get really fascinating. So artificial intelligence is absolutely everywhere. I mean, our cars, our houses, ourselves, our pets, etc. will all have some form of AI, and it's just continuing from there. So let's cover a little bit of some of the devices that we may find out there in the world. In terms of home automation, there are home hubs and controllers. So Echo, Google Home, Facebook Portal. How many of you have these types of devices? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I refuse to get these things. I'm just not there yet. So, yeah, we've got plenty of these devices in our homes. Home surveillance. You know, we've got lots of cameras. The Ring doorbell, that's a very popular one as well. Smart locks and home security. My parents-in-law, they have a smart lock, and they can open that up remotely. So they could be anywhere in the world. You show up, they see you on the Ring doorbell, they let you in the house. So it's kind of fascinating. Smart thermostats, smart lighting, smart appliances. We've got tons of these things. Traeger even has a smart appliance, so you can set your brisket remotely. If you want to do that, but you could. Even Amazon has gotten into the game with the Amazon Basics microwave with Alexa. So I mean, it's competitively priced $65, and you can come in through your phone and tell the microwave to turn on at a certain time.
Wow.
Yeah. Then we've got smart vacuums, smart health and fitness, outdoor devices as well. So we've got the smart vacuums, smart floor scrubbers, so mops and so forth, pool cleaners, lawn mowers. I saw that they've also created a robot that goes out, looks, and identifies dog droppings and picks them up. Yeah, that might be a useful one. And then we've got tracking that we can put on pets. So this is an example here. This is my cat Stanley, and Stanley is wearing a tile. And with the tile, I can interface with my phone and get an idea of where Stanley is in the house. And if he's really in a good hiding spot, I can start to make that thing sing and find him. Very useful. I also have that on our dog as well, and we've got 5 acres, so sometimes he's out sniffing the deer and so forth. So my wife will yell and yell, he won't come. But yeah, when he hears that, he comes running. So yeah, we've got that for pets, and there's also we can have smarter devices than that. We can have GPS built into their collars now. So the dog runs off, yeah, we can just get on the phone and know exactly where that dog is and go pick him up. I think that's a wonderful thing. So we have that asset tracking for larger things like vehicles, etc. Then we've got artificial intelligence in medical devices. This is kind of interesting as well. So we've got pacemakers, defibrillators, insulin pumps, cochlear implants, neurostimulators, retinal implants, and even implants for arthritis that you can control remotely. It interfaces with your medical professional, and they can see how often this is fired and monitor your health this way. Now, this does raise some issues, and we've all heard in the news the issues of security with these types of devices, especially cameras and how hackable they are. Medical devices, they're still in that category. So we have to be careful with that. In fact, back when Dick Cheney was vice president, he had a pacemaker, but he had an external one because they said this is too much of a risk to have an internal pacemaker because an enemy state actor could come up there and drop him. So they elected to have an external pacemaker, and that, as far as I know, is still policy in the United States, is to try and protect our top officials. So we have that. Then we've got smart automobiles. Yeah, this has gotten really exciting in the past 5 years too. We've got smart parking vehicles. We've got Tesla vehicles that can start to do driving on highways. So it starts to get exciting. The problem is, again, these things are hackable. And I will cover this with my undergrads. It doesn't take too much research on Google to go out there and find instruction manuals on how to do this. And unfortunately, the 2015 Ford Explorers and Jeep Cherokees are among some of the easiest to hack. And it's kind of scary to see some of these videos where they can cut the engine while you're out there on the highway, adjust the radio, adjust your heat and fan control, and adjust your telemetry as well. So it can make it look like you're going 99 miles an hour when you're not. So kind of interesting there. Then we've got wearables such as our smart watches and fitness trackers. And then it's been an absolute explosion of these products. So we've got some of these products that I don't understand. Smart diapers, I really don't understand the need for a smart diaper. Smart jewelry, that one was kind of interesting. It's a pendant that you wear, and when you get a message of some sort, it lights up. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's not my area. This one I really don't understand, the D-free toilet time and predictive app for incontinence. So it's a sensor that goes on your bladder and it learns over history, and it also starts to map out your house. And it will tell you if you're going to make it to the bathroom or not. So I don't know about that one. There's also a smart belt. They'll tell you if you overate. Nestle tweeting bra, that's one I do not understand. The Hoptic cycling airbag, that's actually a pretty cool idea. This one came out of the Netherlands. And what it is it's a jacket that you wear, and it senses if you are going up and over the handlebars, and it will inflate the hood around the back of the jacket to protect your head, which is kind of cool. That one is. And then there's the Like a Hug vest. This was invented by an MIT student, and every time you get a Facebook like, this thing inflates up, gives you a hug. So yeah, there's been absolute devices. Okay. So where did all this start to originate from? All the way back in 1959, we had a gentleman named John McCarthy, and he coined the term artificial intelligence. Now, John McCarthy back in 1959 thought that, we're at the age of computers, they're just coming out with space. He thought, well, in the next 10 years, we could solve this and have a general purpose solver, which is a computer that can tackle any type of problem. So they thought within 10 years, we could have artificial intelligence. It's now been 60 years later. We're no closer to achieving that goal that John McCarthy had set out than they did back then. But we've gotten a heck of a lot better at defining what the problem is in terms of artificial intelligence. So it is a field that is crossed from other disciplines. It's not just strictly computer science. There's also going to be biology that comes into play because we want to start to make devices that look and mimic human beings. Psychology comes into play as well because we want to have devices that we accept. And I'll cover a couple of examples of why we accept certain devices and not others. Linguistics, we have devices that we can communicate with. Mathematics and engineering. So it really breaks itself down into three different areas. The cognitive science, which is designing machines that can think and learn like we do. Robotics, so making machines that can perform like human beings. And natural interfaces, so being able to interact with those machines. So we're hopeful that within the coming decades that we can start to get all three of these married together. We're making advances in each of these areas, but we haven't put it all together quite yet. And one of the stated goals for artificial intelligence is that they would like to have, by the year 2050, to have robotic soccer players play the World Cup. Now we've gotten interesting results right now. We've got like 1 foot tall robots that'll play each other, but it is not even close to World Cup yet. So we got another 30 years here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cognitive science, this is getting into machine learning. I'm not going to bore you with the details of machine learning. So there are tons of algorithms that are out there that will look for patterns, trends, and tendencies within the data and be able to identify those for us. So a couple of really interesting ones, the neural networks came out in the 1980s, and this is an example of a neural network here. So you have inputs, we have a hidden layer, and then we have an output layer, and it can make decisions based upon those inputs. And once you have that trained, it has fairly good accuracy. So neural networks are used in a wide variety of areas. We'll see this in banking and finance, so making credit decisions. You ever wonder how they can make a decision in 30 seconds or less as to whether or not to give you a loan? Neural network. So they look at what your credit history is, what The size of the loan is going to be the interest rate and several other factors. And based upon the historical results, they can come up with fairly good accuracy as whether you're going to default or not on that. We'll also see neural networks managing billion-dollar hedge funds. So that's out there as well. Deep learning, this is one that my students always get interested in because it's the current buzzword that's out there in terms of machine learning. To take the magic out of that one, it's stacking neural networks on top of each other. We just didn't have the computational capacity to do that in the past, but now we do, and it starts to come up with some more interesting results with that. And then we've got the rule-based systems, or the classical AI, that we could use as well. Okay. The robotics aspect of this, these are the machines that can think and operate autonomously. And we have come a long way in terms of this as well. So one of the earliest prototypes is MIT's Kismet, which is up there on the upper right-hand side. And if you ever get a chance when you're up in Boston to go to the MIT Museum, it is well worth it. And Kismet is actually one of the displays up there. But Kismet was designed to react to human emotions and try to approximate human emotions. So if you had Kismet in a room by himself, Kismet would start to look depressed or bored. Once you walk into the room, he would perk up. So he was meant to try and imitate what we do. If you tried to throw a punch at Kismet, he would draw back and be surprised. So that's what Kismet would do. And we learned quite a bit from that, and it was more how we interact with robots is what we had learned from that experiment. Honda's Asimo was another major robotic invention. So we've got him over on the left-hand side. I don't know how many of you have made it down to Walt Disney World's World of Tomorrow display. Asimo is one of the pieces in that display. So it is a 4-foot-tall bipedal robot that can walk out, ascend and descend stairs, etc. So it was one of the first successful bipedal. In fact, when they were starting to do robotics, it was a heck of a lot easier to make a one-legged hopper than it was a bipedal robot. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense because as you are engaging in walking, you have a lot of dead weight all of a sudden throwing you off balance, and the robots early on could not handle that. But they've gotten a heck of a lot better once we started getting higher processing power to be able to take that type of stimuli. The center here, this is Boston Dynamics Big Dog. And they invented this one about 5 years ago, and this is a military pack animal. And it can carry about 400 pounds on any type of terrain. If you ever get bored and go out to YouTube, you watch videos on Big Dog. It is, they abuse this thing because you never know what type of environment it's going to be in. But this thing does not lose its footing and it just keeps coming. It's kind of scary to watch this thing. Then off to the right-hand side, this is the latest from Boston Dynamics. What we have is we have the Spot Mini, which is the dog-looking robot, the yellow one there. And this will also allow you to carry weights with it. However, it has 2 customers so far. One is the Massachusetts Bomb Squad. They're using the Spot Mini. And Norway recently purchased a Spot Mini to do patrols on one of their oil rigs. So it was kind of an interesting use for the device. To the right of the Spot Mini is Atlas. And Atlas is a fascinating one. Atlas is, they're trying to groom as the soldier of the future. This thing is scary. It handles pistols, shotguns, and things very easily. And it does not miss. This thing is frightening to watch. Yeah. So if you get bored, absolutely amazing what that thing does. Then we get into androids. So this is getting away from robots that look like robots and starting to get into robots that look like humans. So what we have here is we have our roboticist, Dr. Ishiguro, and he runs a lab in Tokyo that he has created several very interesting androids. So here we've got on the left-hand side Dr. Ishiguro and his DER robot, DER. Now this one was a fascinating android because Dr. Ishiguro lives about 2 hours away from Tokyo and he has to commute every day on the train. Well, he got kind of, what can I do to solve my problem of having to commute? So he built this android, and the whole idea of this android was to teach his class for him. Now, the robot itself could not think, and it couldn't speak on its own, so what he would do is he would don a mask that would translate his facial movements to the DER android, and whatever he would say would come out of the microphone in the DER. So he did that for a little bit with the university as to who gets paid here, him or the robot. So yeah, he kind of lost that one. The DER 2, this is the next generation of his creation here, and this one will lead people that test him. And he's also gotten into trying to solve some of the issues with the aging population in Japan. So, you know, we need to have robots that can start to assist the elderly, such as reaching cans from top shelves or helping them bathe or doing other assistive features. So that's the Repli Q1 Expo that he has created there to assist in these tasks. So we have that. Then we've got a couple other interesting robots here. On the left is a venture by students in Japan, and they thought, how could we have these robots start to learn, trying to get the cognitive science part into these robots? How do they learn? So rather than program these devices, why can't we just have them learn like a human infant does? So they created the CVsquare in an attempt to have it try and learn from all of its stimuli and try to organize that like a human infant. But you can see that there are some issues with that. Just out of curiosity, what is your take? I mean, how do you feel when you see CVsquare here? Not comfortable at all. No. My undergrads, when they see this, their reaction is kill it. And there is a visceral reaction to that because that does not look like an infant. One, it's gray. Two, it's 4 foot tall. So, you know, this kind of gets into, you know, we don't accept robots that look like humans but don't quite look like humans. So there's issues with that. Getting into some other aspects of this with robotics that's been successfully deployed in Korea. What they have is for the very small children, kindergarten, etc., they will have robots in each classroom acting as teaching assistants. So they're there to entertain and educate the students. Now, of course, they can't continue to do that all the way up through 12th grade, so it's just at the very early stages of learning that these students are becoming accustomed to dealing with these entities. And then we've got adult entertainment robots. And I'll just leave it at that. These things exist. And it's a big part of the, okay. So, how's the human acceptance of robots translate? Well, the DER, that was Dr. Ishiguro's replicant. That one was kind of fascinating because the Japanese students treated it as Dr. Ishiguro. So if they accidentally bumped into it, they would say, oh, I'm sorry, and back away. So they treated it like it was a human being because it looked like Dr. Ishiguro. So that was interesting. We also have baby robots. So off to the right-hand side, these are both baby robots. One is a heck of a lot more acceptable to us than the other one because we like things that look like us. And we will accept things that are robots, but we will not accept things that are in between, like the one up top there.
We're using those like robots in time for people to get their children that they're taken away from them, and they will have them take them in their homes to see if they're using them or neglecting them, and those who use them or not.
Okay.
Because they stimulate if they want to be fed or whatever.
And these robots are getting more and more realistic. It used to be that you had no problem determining which is an android, which is a human being, because we have so many facial muscles, and it was really hard for us to have that small of actuators in an android. But since things have gotten much better, it's gotten tougher to start to distinguish these between one another. And sometimes we still have issues, you bring up, violence against children, we still have that, and sometimes we'll have violence against robots. So this was Hitchbot, and Hitchbot was an interesting concept. Hitchbot couldn't move on his own or anything. All he could really do was give you an LED in his head, so he would be happy or sad or what have you. So he would have a sign on him, and the whole point is he wanted to hitchhike across the world. So you would pick up Hitchbot, take him to wherever you're going, and then drop him off, and then hope somebody else will take him a little bit further. Unfortunately, Hitchbot met a unfortunate demise in the city of brotherly love. So yeah, that is the remains of Hitchbot. But I mean, he made it all the way from Europe to the U.S. Okay, then the third area of artificial intelligence is getting into the natural interfaces. So these are robots that can communicate with us. And we've had quite a bit of stride in this area as well. So entities that can respond in natural language. And we may have, in the course of dealing with people on the internet, you may have dealt with chatbots at some point. And they've gotten fairly sophisticated. They are very good in specific domains. So in terms of tech support, these guys are really good because they know the domain and are able to answer the questions correctly most of the time. It's where the natural interfaces and where we still have issues is when we get into small talk type of things. They still have about 80% accuracy, and that other 20% is just bizarre, off-the-wall type of responses. The first artificial entity, the chatbot that was created was ELIZA, and that was created back in the 1960s. And ELIZA was very successful because ELIZA imitated a Rogerian psychotherapist. So whatever you would say to ELIZA, ELIZA would reflect it back to you, and then you would continue on, and you would have that conversation. The story with that one was that Weizenbaum's secretary managed to find ELIZA one day and was chatting with ELIZA and refused to believe ELIZA was a computer program. So that one was kind of interesting to beginning of the chatbots. Nowadays we have something called the Loebner Prize, which is an annual contest to try and find out which chatbots are most lifelike. So it's a type of Turing test. They will have 3 judges, and the judges will ask carefully crafted questions to try and determine, am I talking to a human or am I talking to a robot? Now, to win the Loebner Prize, you have to fool all 3 judges into thinking that you are a human. So far, we haven't even come close to that. A couple of years ago, one chatbot managed to fool 1 judge, which was kind of exciting because we had not come close before that. So if you get bored over the weekend, you can look up some of the Loebner Prize winners. Matsukia is one of them. Alice is another. There's a few others as well. Okay, now shifting gears into the data aspect and why data is important and why we need to protect this. There's a lot of data out there on the internet, a ton of it. In 2019, our best estimate is that it's about 2 zettabytes a year of data that transacts through the internet. And 2 zettabytes of data is about 1 million times larger than a terabyte of data. So your computer at home usually will have a hard drive of about a terabyte or so. So yeah, 1 million times more that is transacting. It comes out to about 5.6 exabytes a day. Now, to put this into perspective, somebody did the calculation, and if you were to take all words ever spoken by human beings from the beginning of time to and including today, that is 5 exabytes. Daily traffic exceeds that on the internet, and it's just increasing. So if you were to download the entire internet and you had a Suddenlink 1 gigabit connection, which is really quick, yeah, 9 trillion years to download the entire internet. So it kind of puts it in perspective here. So what is creating all this traffic? Well, YouTube is doing quite a bit of the damage. 5 billion videos a day are watched on YouTube. Facebook has 4 petabytes of data downloaded per day, and Walmart 60. With Walmart, everything is connected. All Walmart stores are connected to Bentonville. So there is not anything that goes on in a Walmart store Bentonville does not know about. Those cash registers, everything. It was a number of years ago that the CDC started to use Walmart data to track flu outbreaks, because Walmart data was more accurate than what the CDC was using. Because Walmart knows what the baseline of flu medications are for their sales, and if you start to exceed that threshold, they know there's an outbreak in that geographic area, and they can do that in real time. So, a lot of data that's out there, but how much of this data is relevant to these companies? You know, we hear about Cambridge Analytica and all these other companies out there that are mining data about you and me and trying to build profiles of who we are. Well, you can go out there and you can see what these companies know about you. So I've got 3 examples in Facebook, and you can find out what they know about you. So on the left-hand side here, this is Google, and you can see it has a very extensive list in here, and I just broke out the top part of that here. So it has my age range correct, gender correct, but then it says Macy's, eBay, and Dell. Well, Dell I can kind of understand a little bit here, but Macy's and eBay, yeah, not so much. So they kind of missed on that. In fact, it starts to get interesting that these companies can start to miss the mark on some of this data, because in here we've got Australian football. I do not follow rugby, but I know how that got in there because I teach a sports data mining course in the fall, and I was looking for videos to explain the rules of rugby to my students. So because I was doing that search, it now thinks I have that interest in rugby. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it misses the mark. Then you can get into situations like this with Amazon. So trying to determine what your interests are. Now Amazon, I'll admit, Amazon doesn't have a prayer to understand what my interests are because my wife uses my account. So Amazon gets a very distorted look because it treats us as one entity when we're not. So yeah, you can see in there this eclectic range of glassware I have no interest in. And Facebook, everybody got all upset about Cambridge Analytica and all the data that was being mined on that. Well, here's what Facebook thinks they know about me, that my top interests are hair products, beauty, and interior design. This is actually better than it was last year because their top interest that they thought I had was parking lots last year. I do not understand that, but I always find this amusing. Now some of this, okay, comedy, movies, SUVs, do it yourself, but I don't understand how some of those got much, much higher in this list.
Excuse me, what did you put in Google to retrieve all this information? Just your name?
No, there is a set way of doing that. You would have to Google it. Because they do do hide it, but there is a process that you would go through and look up your profile and then the data that they know about you. So you can find this. And Facebook's the same way. They have to release that to you. And if you ask them to remove it, they have to remove it as well. So that is there. But they're not even close to accurate, so I don't even bother with that. Okay, now let's get a little bit into a quick discussion of some of the topics with artificial intelligence here. And there are some good things that can come out of this. I mean, we saw some crazy products, we saw some pretty good products as well. So I club these into the good, the bad. We've got the good part here. And we're not far off on this one. You could have your car notices a problem. It will check with your schedule on your phone, make a car appointment, and enter the reminder in your schedule. I'd love to have this. We're really close to having this. My wife's Forester, this thing will check for any type of problems, and it will send you a reminder, but it does not enter it into your schedule yet. It will also notify the dealer, and then the dealer is going to harass you as well. But they will be hard. So that I anticipate in the next 5 years or so, we should be at that point. Your refrigerator creates a grocery list and sends it to your phone. This would be a fascinating one. We've been talking about this one for 10 years. We haven't quite gotten to this because we don't want to embrace RFID yet in our foods. That one wouldn't be hard. You can put expiration dates into your foods as well, and the refrigerator knows exactly what's expired and what needs to be thrown out and what you need to be ordering. We could go one step further. You could have your dishwasher ask for more detergent if that needs to be needed. You can do that. We do have smart appliances. Maytag makes a tweeting washing machine. That one I don't understand why you need your washing machine to send tweets out, but we do have that. This one I brought up with students many, many years ago. We actually have this now. Your car communicates with other cars, alerting you to hazards, construction, and speed traps. Yeah, we've got apps for that now. Not just Google Maps, but Waze will tell you where the cops are, which is kind of fascinating. And there are current research into smart pills, which will communicate with hospital equipment to assist in medical procedures. So you ingest these devices, and they can assist you in any type of medical procedure. So they're working at that, and that requires a lot of approval time for that to become reality. So these are some of the good things. We've got some not so good things that could come out of this. Your mobile phone, count how many times you went to fast food restaurants this week and start sending you Jenny Craig ads. I don't need that. That's not hard to do. Programmatically, that is really not hard to do. In fact, your McDonald's app sends you push reminders. I actually get this. Every time I go to there's one specific Burger King near my house. Every time I'm sitting in that drive-thru, I get a McDonald's ad. It's just neat stuff. It's like, I understand you have my data, I understand that, but don't freak me out. Your bathroom scale communicates with your mobile phone, which will tell you that Whopper. I tell my students, you are one law away from that. That's frightening. Your State Farm app that you gave your location and sensor permission to secretly records your driving habits, speed, acceleration, braking, centripetal force, and destination to determine your insurance premium. Phone tracks all that stuff, and if you gave it permission, you lost control of that data. So that's out there. Okay, so not so good. And then we've got the really frightening stuff here. Law enforcement, your phone immediately reports parole violations to your parole officer. Hey, you are within 500 feet of that school. Stay where you are, we're sending law enforcement. I've had students say, well, I just dropped the phone and run. Yeah, they know what I'm wearing. Your phone reports excessive speeding or reckless driving. I am surprised a politician hasn't figured that one out. That one's not hard to do. Law enforcement immediately gets a list of everyone who was at a drug house, when and for how long. This is reality. they do this. They'll do blanket search warrants and find out who all has been in there, and they will track that by your cell phone ID. So yes, that is done. And there's also fantastic stories about sex robots, driverless vehicles, all hacked to murder. Yeah, well, I'm not going to worry about that because that's a ways off. So. But what we do have is we have China's social credit system. How many of you have followed this? This thing is frightening. So what they have is they have a social credit system, and it basically rewards you if you follow the Chinese communist ideology, and it will punish you if you do not. So if you are outspoken against the government, you start receiving negative scores. And what those negative scores can entail is the loss of transportation rights. You're not getting on any trains, you're not getting on any planes, you're not moving out of your city. Loss of internet, bans from school, that's also out there as well. So yeah, some jobs, it used to be it was just going to be government jobs, but then the industrial sector got into this and decided, yeah, if you're a bad person, you know, we don't want the state to be mad at us either, so we're just not going to hire you. So that is out there. Loss of pets, that's also a penalty as well, and public shame. So some of the things that can earn you some bad social credit: bad driving, smoking in designated non-smoking areas, buying too many video games, social media posts contrary to the social welfare will all bring penalties. The other thing they have is they have the Study the Great Nation app. So you can go out to Google Play. I would not recommend downloading that thing because it will track you. It does slurp up all your data. But Chinese citizens have to interact with the Study the Great Nation app daily and pass the quizzes. If you do not pass the quizzes, your score goes down and you could lose your job. This is a frightening thing that's going on in China currently. Okay. So let's talk real quick about how data is protected. The United States has kind of a piecemeal data privacy approach. We've got a smattering of laws that aren't really comprehensive to any degree. We have COPA, which is the Child Online Act. So this is whenever you interact with a website and it says, are you 13 years old or older? That's because of COPA, because there are stringent laws dealing with data of people that are 12 and younger. And many companies don't even want to deal with it, so if you say that you are younger than 13, nope, we don't want you on that platform. So that way they don't have to deal with the privacy issues for COPA. Then we've got HIPAA, so that's more with patient data, so medical data there. The GBLA, that is getting into protecting consumer records. So if you have records that got compromised in a hack of some sort, GBLA comes into effect on that. And we also have the HSA, which is our privacy notices. So annually you'll get privacy notices from company. Here's how we're handling your data. Well, that's coming out of the HSA. But there is nothing that is a uniform approach in the United States. And this is just some of the highlights. There's a few other ones out there as well. They mostly leave the data privacy up to the states. And for the state of Texas, as soon as a breach is discovered, it has to be reported. And there are regulations as to whether it is 50,000 or more user records that were compromised or not, unless it hinders a criminal investigation. And there is very strict teeth to that law as well. So there are high penalties for every day that you delay that type of notification. This is in contrast to European Union, which has enshrined data privacy into the EU Constitution. And just a few years ago, they passed the GDPR. And the GDPR is how companies have to respond when there is a breach. So they have 72 hours to notify all the individuals of the breach, and if they fail to do so, penalties could include 4% of their revenue. So that one gets people, that gets their attention. Okay. So let's go through a quick example of some of the abuses of data that has been out there, especially in recent news. We've got China and the coronavirus. I mean, early in the outbreak, we saw the numbers fluctuate wildly. I mean, it was, only 30 people are dead, and then all of a sudden the next day, oh yeah, it's been 3,000. That's quite a movement on that. So we're still not entirely sure how China is conducting their data abuse. Brexit. So when the UK left the European Union, they had contributed to have the Galileo satellites put in orbit, which is the EU's answer to our GPS. So it's basically the GPS that Europe can use. And once Brexit was complete, Great Britain came to the European Union and said, hey, we would like to have access to the Galileo since we contributed all that money to it. And the EU threw up a bunch of roadblocks on that. And so they had a bunch of conditions. So as long as it's not contrary to what the EU wants, that's fine. So if they take any actions that the EU doesn't agree with, then they will shut off their access to those satellites. Then we've got telecommunications and offshoring of jobs. This one was a fun story from a number of years ago. So telecommunications in the United States is a protected industry. Protected in the fact that it is vital to our national security. We do not want to have enemy state actors get into our telecommunications because then you can hear and listen to conversations, etc. So it is protected in that regard. Well, anyways, Verizon had a situation a number of years ago that they finally got around to looking at their security logs. They had neglected this for a number of years. Well, they started looking at their security logs, and they noticed there was an IP address coming in from China. And they're like, whoa, this is some red flags here. What's going on with this? And they started looking into this further, and they noticed that this Chinese IP address would come in every day at 8 a.m. and leave every day at 5 p.m. And they're like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Why would you be doing that here when China has a completely different time zone, etc.? It didn't make sense. So they investigated a little bit further, and they found out that one of their employees had offshored his own job. So what he did is he took his salary, he took 10% of his salary, contacted a Chinese company to do his job for him. 10% of his salary. And he went to work every day, and he would play Facebook games and chat with friends and so forth. He got glowing reviews, performance reviews. They said it was some of the best code they ever seen. But yeah, he got fired after that because that's just not acceptable. A couple other abuses in the news nowadays is Clearview AI. So I don't know if any of you have heard about Clearview. What they're trying to do is build a repository of everybody's face. So they're slurping up data from Facebook, Instagram, and any other publicly available data. So they want to the point where they can have a camera, just take a picture of your face, and know exactly who you are and have links to all your profile data. Yeah, they want to that point, and it doesn't have to be a smartphone. It could be any camera. They know exactly who you are. I mean, it would be useful for casinos, but other than that. So there is some privacy issues with Clearview with this. So they're going to have some legal hurdles coming up. Then we've got cell phone location data. So remember I was telling you that law enforcement will obtain cell phone data about individuals and so forth. Well, judges put a stop to that and said, no, you can't have blanket warrants like that, like they were doing before. You have to have specific warrants, and you have to have probable cause. How they decided to get around that was, okay, we can't go straight to the telecoms to do that, but we can have a third-party company do that for us. Enter Ventel. So Ventel does the exact same job. They collect everybody's information as to where they are at all times based upon their cell phone, and then sells that data to the government. Any government. That's the U.S. government, but any government. they will sell that to. And that's also data privacy issues that we're going to have to address legally at some point. So, because AI has become such a strength as of late, a lot of countries have embraced AI and have put together AI policies as to how they want to govern their AI use. And here we've got many different countries in here, all with their own policies of how they want to pursue AI. And the US actually got into this fairly late, just about a year ago, with the American AI Initiative, which was an executive order. And with the AI initiative, there are 5 different areas here. First is to invest in AI. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you to Luann for the invitation to come here. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, Tyler Public Library, and thank you all for braving the elements and making it out here today. So today I will be talking about artificial intelligence and data, and given that wonderful introduction, I'm kind of skipping through this part, a little bit about myself. Just a couple of highlights here. I am professor of computer science, also director of the data analytics lab over at UT Tyler. My 3 research areas are textual financial prediction, and in essence, in plain English, what that means is being able to have a computer read a news article and make predictions on where that stock price is going to go, and make an instantaneous trade before a human analyst has a chance to even read that. Sports analytics, so looking at patterns, trends, and tendencies within sports and trying to find competitive advantage with that. And also our latest area is healthcare informatics. So one of the areas that we're looking at is looking at adverse drug events with multiple prescriptions. So what prescription drugs should never be used in combination. So we're looking at that. So I keep myself busy with that regard. And I have had my research featured in a couple of media outlets. So I'm kind of happy about that. So today, the outline of today's talk might be a little bit different from what you've had in the past. We're going to focus on some of the background of artificial intelligence, how it has evolved over the years, give you a little bit of the history of it, a little bit of the flavor of all the different areas of artificial intelligence, get into the data of why this is so important and why we need to start to protect this. And then we will get into the foreign policy aspects. So I'll present several stories and situations, and we can start a discussion based upon that. All right, so let's go ahead and start off. I always love to start my classes off with the research that NSF will invest in. Unleashing the AI resources, removing barriers to AI innovation, training an AI-ready workforce in STEM programs, and promoting an international environment that is supportive of American AI innovation and its responsible use. So just last month, they released their year 1 annual report on how this is going so far. And some of the highlights of this is that they doubled the non-defense AI R&D budget. So that's definitely an encouragement. They are increasing funding out there, increasing access to and the use of federal data and models. So there is a federal data strategy that is out there now. There is data.gov that is starting to get really beefed up. So any type of federal government data that is publicly available, you can go to data.gov and collect that data. I will warn you, it is government data. It is nasty, dirty data. Just from our own research into the adverse drug events data, we found dirty data in there, such as people that were listed as 42,000 years old. Thank the government for that. People that had negative ages, I don't even understand that one. Some 70-some genders were listed in there. I didn't understand that. And they would also have other interesting things in there, such as symptoms for these drug interactions, such as adolescence. So, yeah, even though the government does provide the data, you still have to be cognizant of what you're dealing with.
Question.
Yes?
Is there any definition of what the purpose of all of this research and activity and best practices? In other words, it looks like to me they could do almost anything they wanted to.
You
Police
could.
work, intelligence work.
Oh, yeah, this applies to many different agencies out there.
Economic research, I don't see that there's a definition of purpose.
Yeah, this applies to many different agencies that are out there. And what they do is they will coordinate with that. They have a center of excellence for the best
Is your
practices.
one report related to the executive order or on the
Yes.
previous slide?
Yes. Yes.
That's the worst.
So this is what they came out with. Some of the impetus for having this executive order is that China is getting into AI fiercely, and one of their superiority over the UK, Russia, and the US by 2050. So they can call the shots, and if you don't like what they're saying or trying to do something contrary, there's going to be consequences. So that's kind of a response to this to try and avoid that situation. So yeah, they're throwing a bunch of money out there right now. I haven't dug into the exact specifics as to how it has been spent, but or how efficiently it has been. And I don't know if we're going to have that for a number of years yet. But yeah, this is what we have so far. So this is what they have, and real quickly, because I see we are starting to run out of time here, they did create 10 AI regulatory principles to try and govern this. So public trust in AI, public participation, scientific integrity and information quality, risk assessment, management, make sure you have proper benefits to costs, flexibility in the regulations, fairness, non-discrimination, transparency in the disclosures, safety and security of the information, and interagency coordination. So this was really the highlight from that report.
Well, it looks to me that it's self-regulatory. Looks like they set up the principles of what they're going to do, and they are their own regulators. That doesn't seem to be in the public interest.
Yeah, I couldn't speak to
I'm
that.
afraid of the executive order.
Yeah, I couldn't speak to that part of it.
I'm going to interrupt
Okay.
because what o'clock has run. And we should know we're very popular. Now, I have
Thank you.
a question, and I think it all.
Thank you. I'm sure some of you or many of you have questions, and I do not know what your schedule is, whether you want to remain afterwards or not. But I'm going to officially close this and say, haven't we had a wonderful 2020 great decision?